Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Game and VSGI Speaker Series. And my name is Sang Nam. I'm the Director of Computer Game Design Program. Besides me, I see Professor James Casey, Professor Eric Piccioni, and let me see whether we have some other professors. Uh, I don't see others at the moment, but yeah, welcome everyone. And today, I would like to introduce Mr. Tyler Buczek. So, Tyler Buczek is a senior technical producer at Epic Games who has contributed to Fortnite since 2018. As an embedded producer for the console team, he works closely with engineers to ensure the stability and performance of the Fortnite ecosystem across platforms. His work includes supporting major initiatives such as the launch of Fortnite Creative, console split screen functionality, the Unreal 5 visual refresh featuring Nanite and Lumen, and console ports to Xbox Series, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch 2. He's passionate about creating memorable player experiences. Tyler has contributed to multiple award-winning titles and continues to focus on delivering high quality and impactful games to a global audience. And I'm very proud of Tyler because he's a graduate from our program back in 2015. Wow, 11 years ago.
Crazy.
Without further ado, here is Mr. Tyler Buczek.
Well, thanks for that awesome introduction. Yeah, it's so crazy to think that it's been 11 years since I graduated from Mason, but we got feedback from somebody in the crowd here. But we'll move right along. Sang asked me to talk to you folks today, just sort of about my career path, my progression through where I started all the way to where I am today. So that's more or less what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick walk through college, my stop at Bethesda, and then what I've been doing here at Epic. And I'll provide some tidbits of advice of things I've thought of along the way that might help you once you graduate and are looking for your first position in the games industry. And then we'll end with some Q&A. Always happy to answer questions. So let's get right into it. So yeah, I mean, obviously you guys know I graduated from Mason with a BFA in the computer game design program. Um, I studied game design, animation, 3D modeling, audio design, and music. I mean, all the course load that you guys are familiar with. Um, my biggest piece of advice is to try things out. When I first started at Mason, I was really, really gung ho about being an animator. And as I got deeper into the animation course load, it sort of soured on me, and it ended up being something that I wasn't actually enjoying. So I shifted focus. Production and time management and things like that were of interest to me. So I started pursuing coursework that would flesh out those skills, and ultimately that helped me get the job that I have today. Moving right out of college, I applied at Bethesda Softworks as a QA tester. It was a great first job. Initially I was testing on Doom, just reporting bugs, and eventually coordinating the multiplayer play tests for that. Um, After that, I got moved over to the certification team on Prey. Um, what that means is essentially all the first party platforms, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they all have their own checklist of things that you have to pass before you're allowed to ship your game on their console. Um, so I did a lot of work at Bethesda running those checklists and making sure that our games would pass for Sony. So I did that first on Prey, and then I was the coordinator on Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, um, which I'll show here. These are just some of the games that I worked on there. Like I said, started on Doom 2016, um, moved over and helped out on a couple of Dishonored games. Um, and like I said, ran certification on Prey and Wolfenstein as well. I tested a few other things here and there, but those were my biggest contributions. Um, and what I'll say about getting into the industry and just getting your foot in the door, be flexible. Especially nowadays with sort of how tumultuous the industry is at the moment. You may not find that perfect job right away. But getting your foot in the door and just being willing to take, a position that's maybe not perfect, can be a huge advantage. Networking and getting to meet people is huge. The industry is surprisingly small. I see the same faces here and there, from people that I worked with, 7, 10 years ago. So, yeah, just keep an open mind when you're applying for those first positions. Now moving on to sort of how things went for me at Epic. After about 3 years at Bethesda, I was finding that uh, career growth was a little bit stale there. Um, Obviously, I didn't necessarily go into the industry wanting to be a QA tester, and production was something that I was very fond with and actively seeking since I graduated. So Epic had production assistant positions open, um, and I, threw my name in the hat and ended up getting a position helping them to develop Fortnite Creative in the first year that uh, they were working on that. Shortly after, I believe it was about 6 months, I got pulled over to Fortnite Tech. And as Sang said in the intro, that's more or less focusing on platform stability, performance, making sure that the game runs well on all of our supported platforms. I'm specifically focused on the console stuff. So some of those experiences that I had at Bethesda, running down those checklists and stuff, have definitely contributed. And yeah, I mean, over time, it's just natural career progression. Um, let's see here. Yeah, so these are some of the projects that I worked um, on Fortnite. Like I said, Fortnite Creative, bringing split screen to our console platforms, the Gen 9 platforms, Series X and PS5, the UE5 update for Fortnite, and most recently, last year, I was the head production support for bringing the Fortnite port over to Switch 2. And then finally, just my last piece of advice, um, in the same vein as being flexible, focus on what you enjoy. You're not always going to find that perfect position, and sometimes you just got to ride the wave on uh, what you've been handed. And so finding pieces of work that you enjoy in the job and in the cards that you've been dealt, is huge, right? So I wouldn't say that when I initially started, I really wanted to be in tech. Um, I originally had much more designs to go, work with gameplay teams and stuff, and that's partially why I have a game design degree. Um, but just being able to um, drill down on the pieces of work that I really enjoy, like making sure that the schedule all comes together, seeing the different pieces fit together, and ultimately just being the glue for the team. Um, it makes it worthwhile. Um, And I think I'll just end with a couple notes here. Some folks might actually be curious what is a games producer, what makes a games producer. Ultimately, you're sort of the eyes and ears of a development team. You're on the ground level, making sure that your team um, is working closely with all the other teams that they need to get the right help that they need and the right collaboration. It's project management, it's scheduling, it's relationship building, it's communication, all those sorts of things. Um, so yeah. And I think that about covers what I was planning to talk about today. So I can just open it up here for questions. Um, I'll just preface this by saying these are my own opinions and experiences. Nothing that I say is the word of Epic or Bethesda for that matter. Please don't ask me about future Fortnite or Epic projects, and no, I don't have V-Bucks to share with people.
Great, great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing your past career pathway. And then it's amazing that you found your passion and now work at Epic Games. And yeah, I'm sure like everybody here likes to play the Fortnite. And then you are actually part of creator teams. That's great. And my question for you is, we have many seniors here, and
Mhm.
what would be your advice, like for them, because they're going to go into job market like soon, and
Yeah.
then because now industry like it's a little bit like shaky, and then what
Yeah.
would be your advice, and then what would be kind of good tips and for the things they need to prepare.
Yeah, of course. So firstly, I would say apply everywhere. Spread your net very wide. There are, opportunities at every level, whether that be AAA, indie, even I believe you guys have, some games that you're fostering over at SGI. But as Sang said, and as I've mentioned earlier, the industry is a bit tumultuous right now. So exposing yourself to as many opportunities as possible is going to be paramount. I think if there's anything that you want to make sure is on your resume, and I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but it is becoming uh, a bigger and bigger part of game development. Try messing around with some of the AI software that's out there just so you can say that you've done it and it's on your resume. Obviously, you might not have access to some of the more advanced things that game devs do, but even just like asking, like trying to sort things in Chat GPT or something like that. Just play around with it. Um, I'll pull a few questions here from chat. Let's see. Okay, so elaborating on tools and processes I had to learn to become a master in production roles. Jira is a big one. If you can mess around or have any opportunity to read up on the Atlassian suite of products, those are pretty much the bread and butter for production these days. Um, just any sort of task management software in that regard. Let's see. I did not make the graphics. This is Canva, which they have a ton of presets, and this one was just super easy to grab. So I definitely recommend it for any presentations you have to make. Mm. Advice on finding internships or where to look for job openings. Yeah, like I said, you want to spread your net as wide as possible. when I was initially applying for jobs, AAA sort of seemed out of reach, right? But surprisingly, no, they're willing to hire people if you have the right experience. So, um, apply everywhere. And game companies do actually do internships from time to time. So, um, uh, keep your eye out for that as well. Um, no, I'm not involved in making the bot players. What's it like working in a professional team situation? So every company is different. Um, I would say at Bethesda, because I was a QA tester, there were a lot of people in similar situation to me, where we were sort of fresh out of college or just taking up, a new position, a lot of younger folks. So it was a bit more of a casual environment. And that's not to say that at any level a game dev is really super stuffy because, at the end of the day, we're just making video games, right? But um, in my position at Epic, I'm working with a lot more senior folks, people that have been in the industry for 20 plus years. So it's definitely a lot more professional. Um, we're all there to make each other's lives easier. So um, we're just trying to make sure that we're being respectful and being as helpful as possible. Uh,
And we have some more questions in the chat. And also feel free to raise your hand for any question. And Alex James, why don't you kind of read your question, Alex?
Oh, yeah, certainly. So, for someone interested in like kind of a production role, how do you recommend showcasing that work on a portfolio to employers? Like, especially like what a lot of that work is kind of behind the scenes in Google Sheets, Jira, all of
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that can obviously be tough, right? But the funny thing is, in my production interviews, most of the time we haven't gone into a portfolio. A lot of the time it's talking through situations, and they're trying to make sure that you can effectively navigate, tricky development scenarios, tricky scenarios where maybe some of your team members aren't getting along, and being an intermediary that way. Um, but obviously, having a portfolio is always, a plus, right? If you have um, some sheets that you're proud of or something like that, just having that on your resume is a plus for sure.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, then Xavier has a question on I'm an alum, and while I was at GMU, I was in a game design students organization with the motto of we have fun making games. Is there an experience you can talk about in AAA studio where the process of making a game was really fun?
Yeah, I mean, um, you know, uh, QA is a very fun job, I would say. You get to play all these awesome games early, see what makes them tick, find ways to break them. Even my first job running multiplayer coordination on Doom 2016, we were effectively just, playing team deathmatch, and um, while you're on your way looking for bugs and stuff, you're also trying to find, meta builds and what can break the game. So um, there's definitely fun pieces there. I personally, get a kick out of building schedules and making sure that different pieces are coming together, but obviously that's not traditionally fun. So production can be a little bit less so in that regard. Depending on where and what game you're working on, a lot of teams will do regular play tests too, and that's always a fun bonding experience. Um, and a good way to make sure that you're not getting detached from the games that you're making.
And Pedro?
Yeah, so I definitely think trying to I've been for a couple years now, I guess, trying to land a position at Epic, and
Sure.
the cities it goes to can be a little far sometimes. But I was just wondering, like, how worth it do you think would be, like, going to Unreal Fest and things like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, how I actually don't know how expensive is it to go to Unreal Fest if you're just a spectator or not, involved with the company. Um, it feels like it's probably not super worth it unless you are going to be getting value out of building a game in Unreal. Um, there's some inherent value in that you'll get to network with people that are at Epic. Um, so, take it or leave it at that.
And Meg,
I just wanted to ask about like how you went about building your portfolio, like if you used schoolwork or like personal work or yeah.
For my first job, it was schoolwork. Funny enough, the person who was pulling resumes at Bethesda at the time was also a Mason alum. So he was pretty aware with our coursework. Um, and honestly, I think that that's not that rare anymore with some of the East Coast game companies. So you might get lucky.
okay, thank you. And Alex Gradulov.
Hello. Yeah, so I was just wondering because you mentioned networking. That was a big point. So I was just wondering, I'm building my portfolio as an environment artist. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm curious, like, what the difference, how do you compare the importance of networking and portfolio quality and
So
when breaking in?
yeah, of course. So for positions that are a little bit more concrete with what they have to produce, right? Like environment art, like audio design, any of the more artistic pieces or any of the more code-driven pieces, your portfolio is very important. You need to show that you can produce quality work, or you're not going to get anywhere. Networking in that regard is kind of just a bonus on top of that, right? If you know somebody that's an in that can help you get in, um, uh, like I just said, I happened to run into the guy at Bethesda who was a Mason alum, so that was helpful for getting the job there. At Epic, a friend and coworker who is also a Mason alum happened to mention that the production assistant positions were open, and that sort of helped me open the door for me to get to Epic.
Awesome, thank you. And real quick, branching off of that,
Mhm.
do you have any like specific tips for networking? Would you just say like trying to attend more developer meetups or events or something? Or is there
Yeah, I
something
mean,
else?
to point back to the question about Unreal Fest earlier, if you know of events where folks that are working at a company you enjoy are going to be, um, attending and just getting some FaceTime with those people can be huge, especially if, you go and meet up with them and later they're pulling resumes, then that's a face that they can attach to that resume. It's not just some faceless void.
Great, thank you. And Kelly?
Hello. Just making sure this works. All right, yep. So kind of related to that, finding your way into creative roles at especially AAA companies, how does that differ from your path that you went down towards becoming a producer? And then any tips for portfolios or industry standard for what they look for, stuff like that.
hmm so similar to what I was saying, talking with Alex here, your portfolio is much more important when you're working in a creative role. So I would recommend that outside of your classwork, if you were making models, animations, whatever would best bolster the position that you're going after, doing that on your own and finding your craft um, by yourself shows initiative and obviously expands your portfolio outside of whatever you're doing for your coursework. So that's my biggest tip for folks trying to break in. Make sure you're actively doing this stuff on your own. Um, that way you have more to show and it shows initiative on your part as well.
Okay, and Brandon.
Yes, hi. My question is kind of similar to what Alex had, but where did you go to network with others?
So fortunately for me, a lot of my early networking just came from being a Mason alum. However, I did also attend the East Coast Game Conference twice while I was in college. Um, I don't believe Epic still attends, but at the time they were attending, and I got to get a little bit of face value, a FaceTime with some folks there. Whether or not that helped me get a job at Epic, I can't really say. Um, but going through the experience and like, for example, I wrote up like business cards and stuff and handed them out to a bunch of different devs. I'm sure that could translate into jobs being generated at some point. It just didn't work out that way for me.
And Alex James.
Hi. Yeah, so building off what you talked about earlier about kind of how handling production situations seem to be at like the forefront of what employers look for those kind of positions. Were there any like lessons or situations learned earlier in your career that kind of taught you the most?
Yeah, that's a good one. Let me think here. Um, Working in QA at an entry level was a bit challenging because it brought in folks from all walks of life, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes when you are testing at large scale, you kind of just need warm bodies.
Yeah.
Um, so on Doom, for example, I mentioned I was a multiplayer coordinator there. Um, it was surprising the amount of times that I had to find a way to motivate people to actually play the game.
Mm.
We would run into situations where folks were just sitting AFK and getting kicked. Um,
Oh
so,
man.
you know, finding a way to be a good motivator early on in the career, I think was really helpful.
Thank you. That's amazing. That's amazing advice.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Logan.
Hello. Can y'all hear me good?
Yeah.
Yes. Oops, sorry. I accidentally
Oh,
muted.
you're good. Um, Hi, I'm Logan, and I'm wondering what the key piece is for getting an interview in game companies. Despite networking and years of projects, I have a portfolio, and I apply early in the hiring cycle, and I apply to jobs that I feel like I check off most of the boxes. Um, I get a lot of the thanks for applying. Unfortunately, we decided to go with another candidate kind of thing.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, wondering key pieces for getting interviews.
Yeah, it's tough right now. I'm sure you are all not unaware of the massive amount of jobs that have been terminated over the last couple of years. So I feel for you guys because you're competing with people that have been in the industry for a long time. So, my only piece of advice that I can really give right now is to try to focus in on those entry-level jobs. Because even some of the lower level established positions are gonna get filled by people that have been around for a while. I apologize that that's not a better piece of advice, but yeah.
Great, thank you. And Alex G.
Yeah, I wanted to just touch on one thing you mentioned in your presentation for your work. You mentioned that you did handle the implementation of Unreal Engine 5 features like Nanite and Lumen into Fortnite.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to ask, like, when you're working with artists, how much weight do you place on like artistic quality versus performance and optimization? So like, which do you prioritize first, and kind of how do you handle that balance?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting balance, obviously, right? Artists always want things to look as best as possible. And us over on the performance side, we want to make sure that things are running as well as possible. So the way that we did it for this particular project was we set our performance budgets first, and then scaled the art to be as good as possible within those performance budgets.
Okay. And Kelly?
Hello. So, working at indie or just smaller companies in general early in your career, how useful is that when working towards like an established position in a company, such as like any AAA?
I would say it's huge. Any job experience you can get right now is going to be beneficial. Um, and having a position at an indie company, regardless of whether it's something small or something a little larger, um, allows you to flex your skills and build your portfolio. So I would say it's definitely worth it. Um, it's not necessarily better or worse than working at AAA.
All right, thank you. And
Thank you.
Nia, please go ahead.
Hello. So, my question here is, what are your personal thoughts or takes on finding a job on international companies, like for example, finding a game companies from Europe or Japan?
Sure. I mean, I suppose that depends on uh, your personal, um, your personal journey, right? Like, do you want to live abroad? And if so, then yeah, I mean, go for it. I think uh, the American game industry is kind of rough right now, but things are a little bit better elsewhere. So you might have better luck if that's something that you're willing to do.
Yeah, I have found one of an indie Japanese company that made Power World that is open for overseer employees.
Mm, yeah, that sounds like an awesome opportunity. If this, if you can work remote or whatever, then yeah, even better.
All right, thanks.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, feel free to post your questions or raise your hand. And Professor Eric Piccioni.
Oh, hi.
Hey,
I had not actually raised my hand. Um,
good to see you regardless.
yes, it's good to see you too. I could ask, um, did uh, how do you feel it went doing going in the transition from QA into into like mainline production.
Right.
Was it? Do you think that was a difficult thing to pass over into?
So QA is great in that, you're sort of at the end of the line for every discipline, right? Um, Everything goes through your hands. So I think that there were a lot of transferable skills. Um, and as an entry level position, it's not bad at getting you acquainted with the game dev process and like I said earlier, networking, to be honest. But yeah, I think it was the transition was actually pretty smooth. I learned a lot about um, how games get made, the various positions within a team, team structure, makeup, stuff like that. So a lot of those things carried over for sure.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's good to hear.
And I think Logan raised your hand, right? Right, Logan?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question on console stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I know the experience is more on the AAA side and QA, but um, for an indie developer looking to the console market, any direction there generally, maybe there's something that makes it easier for cross-platform and yeah.
Um, I'm not sure I have much advice there, unfortunately. Working at some of these bigger studios, all of those relationships were pre-established and things like that. So I was just sort of inserted into an ongoing pipeline. Um, what I'll say is that uh, you can reach a wider audience on console, that's for sure. So if you can invest and have the ability to publish on console, that's only to your benefit.
Cool, thank you.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you. And Alex G.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I know you might not be necessarily in like a position where you're hiring a lot of applicants, but I'm just curious from your perspective in a production standpoint, what would you say like separates like a what you would consider a hireable junior or like someone that stands out compared to someone you might think I don't know needs more development?
It's a good question. Um, Let me think on it for a moment. I think ultimately what we're looking for is folks that have really good communication skills. Um, you can't really succeed as a producer without being able to talk with all levels of people, right? And especially in game dev, you have, programmers that are a little more receded, right? Folks that are a little more want to keep to themselves. So being able to effectively communicate with all types of people, all walks of life is one of the most important skills you can have.
Thank you. And would you say that still holds true for all the other positions, or do you find, I don't know, maybe you have some programmers that you work with or artists who are very introverted and don't like talking much?
Yeah, I mean, communication skills are broadly useful, but I think they do matter less in positions where you're just expected to be providing a specific output, right? Like
Hmm.
if your job is to write code, as long as you can effectively get along with your coworkers, it's not a big deal if you aren't, actively going out of your way to be social.
Hmm. I see. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. And Freddie. Oh, sorry. Alex James first. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
I had a quick question about the kind of more technical side of the technical production uh process. So I was wondering, especially with like a live service game, how much does tech debt kind of relate to what you or like kind of creating a sustainable plan to manage tech debt and the live service kind of pipeline, especially when updates and short-term delivery are
Yeah.
so high.
Yeah. So tech debt is an everlasting problem.
Yeah.
And as part of the tech team, we are more or less a lot of the time cleaning up the tech debt that teams are introducing, you know, right this
Yeah.
second. So I don't know that I have much more advice other than it's something that you have to actively plan for, and
Hmm.
it's going to be a problem pretty much the entire time that you're developing whatever game. It just and maybe it gets less so with AI, but in my experience, AI is making more tech debt.
Oh man. Well, thank you. Is that something like that you kind of have to build into your like roadmap and timeline at like a base level?
Yeah, if you aren't, especially for a live service title,
Hmm.
if you aren't dedicating time from some people to make sure that the live experience isn't degrading over time, it will, and
Right.
it'll never get better.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
Thank you. And Freddie.
Hi. So I I've been trying to build up my own like indie game company
Hmm.
mainly because I I didn't want to like work under like a major studio.
Hmm.
Though as time progressed, I have started to kind of think it might be like a good experience to do so. I just want to see what your thoughts are.
Sure. So what I will say is that the tools that are becoming available to build video games for indie are amazing, right? Like smaller studios can do more and more every year. And you've probably seen that there's tons of success stories with indie. What I will say though is there's also tons of not so success stories. So the question becomes, what is acceptable for your way of life? Can you make a living doing that? If you can and you're happy, then you don't necessarily need to go and work for a AAA game studio. They're doing the same things you are, just at a much more macro scale. Um, you might have one person doing multiple different roles, and they've got entire teams doing that. If you feel maybe you want to, uh, meet like get embedded with a group of peers and learn and grow together, then certainly AAA will definitely offer that. But otherwise, it just depends on what you're looking for.
All right. Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And Javier offered like some little talk later about some console experience. So if you are curious about the console development, you can talk to Javier. And Javier, if you can leave some your contact information, that would be great. And I have a question for you, Mr. Buczek. And
Hmm.
you graduated from our program 11 years ago.
Hmm.
So, and then you've been in industry for a while. And so you looked at many graduates from computer game design or computer science program. And then what sets you apart to get a job in like at the AAA studios?
Uh, so you're asking generally like as a graduate with no other experience, what's something that you can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
to stand out? Um,
So because there are many like seniors and some
yeah,
graduates that they
right.
also want to get a job in the industry.
Mhm.
So maybe they can benchmark what you've been doing.
Sure. So I briefly touched on this earlier, but working on your own projects goes a long way. Having something that you can show that you made on your own initiative, maybe even with a group of, or a team, is huge. But yeah, once again, more that adds to a more expansive portfolio. So I would definitely recommend while you're job searching, keep working, find something that you can make, something that inspires you.
Great, thank you.
Game jams, yeah, that's a great point someone mentioned in chat. I see James asked, what is one thing you wish you knew more about after graduating, and you settled into your first or subsequent jobs? I think on that for a moment. Honestly, and I'll just say, like, I'll say this as in will maybe open some doors for some people. I didn't think that after graduating AAA was even a possibility. Uh, and it absolutely is. I had some friends that uh, ended up applying and getting accepted at Bethesda, and that's what motivated me to apply there as well. So, I think there's a number of studios in the Maryland, Baltimore area. You have Firaxis, you have Bethesda. There's Bethesda actually has multiple studios. You have Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, and uh, ZeniMax Online over there. So there's a number of studios just in this area. There's a number of studios all up and down the East Coast. So don't feel like just because you're a student, you're not going to be able to make it in AAA.
And Meg,
I just wanted to know like if you knew anyone that like worked for Nintendo or like what your thoughts on like getting into that company.
Sure. I don't know if I can speak on what they're looking for in their hires and stuff. I do know people at Nintendo. We worked very closely together on the Fortnite and Unreal ports for Switch 2. Um, but unfortunately, I don't really have any recommendations for that. I apologize.
and Xavier.
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So my question is like maybe a tad more technical, but it's kind of about the tech side of things. So in your opinion, I'm really curious to know about sort of like outsourcing teams and what your experience is. Have you ever had to onboard an external development team to like get them in on your process and like what's worth keeping in mind as you have multiple development teams working on like the very technical programming guts of a project?
Sure. Yeah. So um, I've worked with multiple different contracting partners. Um, what to keep in mind? Um, I think it's important to um, make sure that, first of all, that they have everything that they need. We've definitely run into onboarding snags before where, you know, permissions to various levels of the code base have caused snags. Um,
Mhm.
and making sure that they have an open pathway of communication with your dev team and making sure that they're using that to the best of their ability.
Okay.
Like, I can give an example of a failure case. We brought on a studio um, to help us with one project or another. I won't get into details. Um, but over the course of their contract, they were very uncommunicative. It was hard to tell where they were actually making changes or impact. And when they would come to us with things that they wanted to check in, uh, it wasn't done up to code. So
Yeah,
again, we find more places where communication is very important in the industry.
exactly. Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
For sure.
And Logan?
Hi. Yes. Maybe more technical also, I guess. So I'm looking long term to, or I'd like to work at Roblox as a
Mhm.
software engineer on their console team.
Mhm.
And they have a creator branch where they work with developers and whatnot. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if Epic Games has a similar creator back and forth where like the software engineers and the producer here, um, how like the community impacts the console development and roadmap and stuff like that.
Yeah, we do have creator programs. I don't know all the details behind that, but I do know that we work pretty closely with some of the more top developers, and there is profit sharing and all that. So we're actually very similar to Roblox in that regard.
Nice, thank you. If I could also a little follow up,
Mhm.
um, has there been any like real performance issues for console? I'd assume so, but like navigating that in like a software engineering perspective.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So we designated the baselines for performance on all of our consoles a long time ago. And we are in a constant battle to make sure that those guidelines are being met. We have an entire performance team that in and of itself is split up into like 4 or 5 different sub teams. So yeah, that to say there are performance issues on console is kind of understating it.
Yeah.
We're always trying to make sure that we're running as best as possible. And
Okay.
our amazing art teams make that a challenge for us.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'd assume it's like you don't need to have all this knowledge in performance for this specific niche. Like there's people who would like steer that. So yeah.
Oh, you're asking like if creators have access to our performance teams? Is that what you're asking?
Oh no, sorry. Like the people I guess that would be under you that are like developing the console not necessarily engine, but like tooling maybe. I guess their knowledge is steered by others, if that makes sense. Like general knowledge is good to have, but there's people, it sounds like, for
Oh, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
There are experts in the performance and console
Awesome.
field. Like my team is
Thank you.
specifically the console team. So like we've got, a suite of experts that help out there for sure.
And Professor Casey, please go ahead.
Sure. So on the console side, how much time? Yeah, hopefully I can phrase this right. That makes sense. But how much time do you have to usually put into your production plan on the console side to account for compliance and certification going through the Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo
Yeah.
process? Because I know in the past, sometimes it's been lengthy. Sometimes you can do emergency
Mhm.
patches if need be. But if you actually have to push something up versus, just downloading stuff, what kind of time frame do you have to put in there currently?
Yeah, so fortunately for most of the various cert processes, we're in an automated cert at this point. So we get very quick turnarounds for like Sony and Microsoft, for example. Um, I don't know how much I can share, but Nintendo is
Yeah,
is the
true.
lowest common denominator
Understand.
at the moment.
But yeah, it's if people haven't seen them, those cert lists are crazy long.
Yeah,
Even automated, it's
effectively,
crazy.
like what is it? The Cheesecake Factory menu, where the test
Right.
cases that
Yeah.
you got to run. We have a cert team that's running those, or at least the major checks for every release. But we release at such a quick pace that at this point, like I said, like we have such a good relationship with first party that we have a little bit of wiggle room. I don't think that that's the case with a lot of companies.
And Alex G.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about how you transitioned into the role as producer. I know you mentioned when you were at George Mason, you were trying to get into animation and then
Yeah.
eventually kind of steered out of that. But I was just wondering, was there like a particular project or role or something that made you kind of change your mind or lean more into that producer role?
Yeah, so as we were going into, I think it was my junior year, where you sort of top out with the if you went down a specific path, at least when I was there, you started to top out on the individual course loads. Um, After finishing the highest level animation class, that's where I started to feel a bit of the burnout. So when we started doing team projects, I was like, let me try this working as a producer in this role. So I would build out the schedules, make sure everybody's individual items were coming in on time, and help where I could otherwise. So it's really in the team environments where you get to flex that. I assume you still do the senior projects and stuff like that. That's a great position to try that out.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, there's some conversation going on about Roblox. And so if you are interested, you can talk to Kelly and yeah, Kelly. Kelly mentioned some good thing about Roblox. And Javier shared some things about Nintendo developer account. Okay. And
Yeah,
thank you very
that's a great piece of advice, Xavier.
yeah. And any other questions? I mean, timing is kind of perfect. It's
Yeah.
2-1. And how can people find you, Tyler? And
Oh,
do
feel
you
free to
even respond to any like alumni
yeah,
email?
yeah. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I usually will accept pretty much any invitation. I might not, if you have questions, I might not get back to you immediately, but I do try to answer questions from students. So, yeah, feel free.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yeah, I really appreciate your time. And I remember that back in 2018, Tyler actually was taking graduate courses and then he shared his concern. Oh, I got a job offer from Epic Games, but it's in North Carolina. Should I just continue my education or go join Epic Games? I think I said, yeah, you should have joined Epic Games. Even though
Yeah, I
we
think
are going to visit.
there was
Yeah.
some debate amongst the students, but
Yeah, yeah. But
it ended up working out.
yeah, yeah, we're extremely proud of you. And then especially I really appreciate your you thinking about us. I mean,
Yeah, of
taking your
course.
time to talk to our students and alum. And yeah, just yeah, keep making us proud and I really appreciate that. And we are going to wait for $1 million donation that you anticipate to give us when you become a multimillionaire with your game. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the warm welcome. It was great to see some familiar faces,
Yeah,
and
likewise. Great to see you, man.
for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Great,
Yeah,
great,
and feel free
great,
to reach out on LinkedIn, like I said.
great. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you again. Okay, thank you for joining, everyone. And this is it for today. But we'll come back next month with other presenter. And thank you, everyone. Especially thank you, Tyler. Okay, bye.
Bye all.
All right, peace.